Do you like the nonsense videos? So did I. I liked the update video I did about my setup. I liked the fucking interview I did with Shane Lewis and Adam Korlick. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming of what the fuck is going on in the world today. On Friday, Britain left the European Union. Now, to be fair, it was a very, very close vote between for Brexit and anti-Brexit, so gotta give some credit there. But from what I'm reading, this Brexit vote has completely threw the UK off guard. And unsurprisingly, the Brexit leaders don't know what the fuck to do.
Sounds like you are veering towards something closer to the Norway option as a compromise between the 48 and the 52 in the single market. Yeah?
Right. My issue with the EU has always been the lack of sovereignty, the lack of democracy. Yeah. Of course there are economic issues as well. It wouldn't be exactly Norway, obviously. We're a very different country. We're 65 million rather than 5 million. But the idea of staying within a common market but outside the political integration, I think that is feasible, yes.
And that means free movement of people.
It means free movement of labour. It doesn't mean EU citizenship with all the acquired rights.
I'm sorry, we've just been through 3 months of agony on the issue of immigration, the public have been led to believe that what they have voted for is an end to free movement.
Here is a very, very important point. From the moment we joined, we had the right to take up a job offer in another member state. You had a legal entitlement if you presented your contract. Now, that changed with Maastricht. When EU citizenship was introduced, people were given legal entitlements to live in other countries, to vote in other countries, and to claim welfare and have the same university tuition and so on. That bit, I think, is going to change. That means that we can deport people.
Why didn't you say this in the campaign?
Listen,
why did you not say in the campaign that you were wanting a system, a scheme where we had free movement of labour? Come on, that is completely at odds with what the public think they have just voted for.
I have just spent 4 months addressing rallies virtually every day, and at every one I would say, do not imagine that if we leave the EU, that means zero immigration from the EU. It means we will have some control over who comes in and in what numbers.
You've given the impression, the words take back control.
It's all there on YouTube, you can see it all.
Your campaign has given the impression that we will not be able to get immigration down to tens of thousands if we're out inside the EU. I think most people would say that gives the impression we will get it down to tens of thousands if we're outside the EU.
No, we've always been clear. We want a measure of control. It will be for a future Parliament to determine the numbers and to determine, how many students, how many doctors, how many family reunifications, whatever. But I don't think anyone's ever tried to put a number on it. That's obviously going to depend on the state of the economy at the time.
The £350 million a week we send to the EU, which we will no longer send to the EU, can you guarantee that's going to go to the NHS?
No, I can't, and I would never have made that claim. That was one of the mistakes I think that the Leave campaign made.
Hang on a moment, that was one of your adverts.
Well, it wasn't one of my adverts, I can assure you.
Well, that was one of the Leave campaign's adverts. That money was going to go to the NHS.
And I think they made a mistake.
That's why many people have voted.
They made a mistake in doing that. But what I can tell you is we have a nice featherbed.
After 17 million people have voted for Leave, I don't know how many people voted on the basis of that advert, but that was a huge part of the propaganda. You're now saying that's a mistake.
We have a £10 billion a year, a £34 million a day featherbed. That is going to be free money that we can spend on the NHS, on schools, or whatever it is.
But you're not guaranteeing that that money, as promised, will go to the NHS.
You must understand, I was ostracised by the official Leave campaign and as I've always done, did my own thing.
Do you think there are other things that people will wake up this morning and find out aren't going to happen as a result of voting this way?
Well, I tell you what they will find out, that we're back to being a normal country, in charge of our own laws, and able to start making our own relationships with the rest of the world, maybe even re-engaging with the Commonwealth.
There have been signs saying refugees not welcome. There have been anti-Muslim remarks made. Are you going to condemn those? Because it's as if you have unleashed a deeply unpleasant strain of British society that sees the referendum result as the reason to come out and be proud of their views.
Well, the real prejudice has been the prejudice that's been there for a decade or more against anybody that dares stand up against the establishment, anybody that dares to say we shouldn't be part of the European Union, and anybody that thinks we should even question immigration as an issue.
But you do accept that there's something nasty in the woodshed that is coming out because of what happened last week. Racist remarks, Poles being berated, Muslims being verbally criticised.
I think there's nastiness on both sides, and I think what we've got is an atmosphere post the referendum of very, very heightened feelings.
And you don't bear any responsibility for that?
And some bad things being said on both sides.
But you don't bear any responsibility for that?
Well, I've never, ever encouraged or condoned behaviour like that. I never, ever would.
If you voted for Brexit, fuck you. You're a xenophobic piece of shit, and you should be ashamed of yourself because you just screwed over the millennials of fucking Britain beyond all fucking reason. There were scholarship programs in the EU. In this Guardian article I read, one of the people was saying how she was furious that her family voted for Brexit, how it was completely fucking selfish of the older generation, to the point where they're not even going to talk to their fucking families anymore because of how much they fucked over them by voting for Brexit. And I also got to agree with this comment from The Guardian, which summed it up perfectly. To the people that did not vote on the day of Brexit, you are just as guilty. You are just as guilty for the state that the United Kingdom is in. You are as bad as the people who voted for Brexit. You are just as guilty as them, and you should be ashamed of yourself as well. If you didn't want to leave the EU, you should have gotten off your fucking ass and voted to stay in. Because now your country is going down the path toward right-wing nationalism, xenophobia, and all sorts of other horrible shit. Now, to be fair, the UK is not as big as the United States of America. It's very small by comparison. So I can understand that from the nationalist point of view, and I can't believe I'm trying to empathize with these pieces of shit, our country is not big enough for all these immigrants that the EU is trying to give us. So my view is America should just take them in. America has the proper vetting process. It takes over a year to get a goddamn green card. We can look at their records. We can go through each individual refugee's record, let them in or send them back. That's what we can fucking do. Because the UK is not going to do it. And since the US isn't as right-wing as the UK currently is, then maybe we could start accepting these refugees as fucking human beings. But that's what we gotta fucking start doing. Take your nationalism and shove it up your fucking dick. Your nationalism is what is going to cause more of these moderate refugees to join ISIS. ISIS is going to massacre these people, just as the Nazis executed Jews. ISIS doesn't care about these refugees. They want to destroy these refugees. That is why these refugees are leaving in the first place, because they are afraid of ISIS. Because the countries that they are fleeing from are fucking destroyed. And they just want a place to live. That's all these people want. Now, are there possible radical insurgents within this flux of refugees? Perhaps. That is why you have a goddamn vetting process and every other strict government regulation and background check system that you have before you let someone in with a goddamn green card. That is why these procedures are in place. Okay? Now, before any of you fuckers start saying, oh my god, this fucking cuck liberal piece of shit is gonna tell us that we gotta take refugees in because Britain won't. Yeah, we got to. Because I don't want to send innocent people to get slaughtered by savages. Excuse me for being an empathetic person. Excuse me for acknowledging my Jewish background and acknowledging the fucking failure that FDR did during the Holocaust. Excuse me for not wanting the United States to repeat that shit. Excuse me for doing that. I am afraid for Britain. I fear for the path that they have chosen for themselves. Because, as we are seeing, just days days after this shit, we're seeing more racist slurs, more xenophobia, more nationalist bullshit. Well, the great Union Jack will rise again from those goddamn refugees. It's fucking pathetic. It really is fucking pathetic. Just the mindset of a nationalist just baffles me to no end. That they think their nation's pride is based upon a lack of diversity, a lack of different cultures coming in. The beauty of Western society, the beauty of a civilized society, is that we are supposed to be better than fucking ISIS. We are supposed to be accepting of different cultures and different ideas. We are supposed to be better than them. When we turn these refugees back and send them back into their own goddamn country, I guarantee you, more of them will become the ISIS members you were afraid of. Because they will be desperate, afraid, and want revenge. It's not that hard to seduce someone that has nothing left to lose. You can brainwash the shit out of them. That is what these ISIS members are. Desperate people that have lost everything, and at this point in their life, they go, I'll strap a suicide vest on and go, Allahu Akbar. And the only way that we can stop that is if we let them in. Not through just open the gates, but through a strict vetting process that they have to go through to make sure they are sane enough to enter the United States. I said this once, I'll say it again. If the opportunity presented itself and I lived on my own, I would gladly take in a refugee family and help them get on their feet. Why? Because that is what someone from an oppressed group does. The Jews were oppressed in Nazi Germany. The Jews were almost wiped out completely. And because I have that, in the back of my mind, whenever I see these refugees, I took $100 out of my own bank account to see if I could help them. And I said this: I will not let another group of innocent people be sent to their fucking deaths because of xenophobia and nationalism. Fuck that. And Britain has just made the ultimate mistake. To the people who were in support of Brexit, good fucking luck. Good luck. Good luck, because you have just fucked over your future generations so horribly that it is going to be amazing to see how your country gets through this shit. I hope Britain doesn't devolve into fucking anarchy because of what you bastards have done to your own country.